It was just afternoon today when Miranda Carnahan and her daughter knew they had to get out of their home as multiple trees started falling down. Sheriff Fred Newman confirmed to us within the hour that a small plane had made an emergency landing on Interstate 81. As you can see, the sun has finally come out, but these floodwaters in Carmel Village and Johnson City still very much here and very much a problem. This is Cyclops Cave, where 5 men found themselves trapped overnight, some of them suffering from hypothermia and exhaustion. Sullivan County's Director of 911 Dispatch says it's the largest wireless outage she's seen in her career. We're watching the sheriff's election particularly closely tonight because it's the first time in 20 years that Washington County, Virginia will see a change of leadership. In Washington, D.C., officials are discussing the dangers of inadequate state oversight and a healthcare monopoly. There is a growing pool of very powerful people calling for Governor Ralph Northam to resign. For years, the Merge family farm has supported cattle, corn, and alfalfa. But for the first time this fall, they're harvesting hemp. City schools in Northeast Tennessee have seen modest increases in enrollment since fiscal year 2010, but every single county school system in Northeast Tennessee has lost hundreds of students. And that obviously has major budgetary implications, right? Washington County's chief deputy says this incident could be described as an assault, yet Lieutenant Graybeal was never charged nor suspended by the department. This video, sent to News Channel 11 by an anonymous source, shows Lieutenant Eddie Graybeal, son of the Washington County Sheriff, slapping a man in handcuffs.
It is definitely against our policy to use force against a handcuffed individual who is not making any threats toward you.
According to Chief Deputy Lita Lightnin, the incident occurred in November 2018 in the Sallyport area of the Washington County Detention Center. Deputies had taken William Rawls into custody for an active warrant out of Blount County. This after Rawls reportedly tried to start a fight while drunk on Conklin Road in Jonesboro.
You can't use force for someone calling you bad names or for somebody who just won't cooperate or behave.
Lightnin says Lieutenant Graybeal self-reported the incident the next day. She says he was never charged or suspended.
If he had closed fist punched this individual, that would have been suspension. Depending on how bad his injuries, it would have been termination.
The incident was also never reported to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation or the District Attorney General.
If there were questions about what had taken place and what happened, yes, we would always turn it over to TBI. But in this case, there weren't any questions as to what happened. It was very clear-cut on the video.
Lieutenant Graybeal was issued this letter of review documenting the incident in his personnel file.
There was nothing in the past. He has a stellar record, and to my knowledge has never had any incident like this before.
Lightnin says favoritism didn't play a role in their decision not to pursue harsher disciplinary action.
I don't have any hesitation to go tell the sheriff any concerns I have about his son. To be honest, to my knowledge, I don't know that the sheriff knew about it until today. I didn't take it to him.
And Chief Deputy Lightnin says they have no intention of reviewing or revising their initial actions following this incident. For now in Washington County, Jackie DeFusco, News Channel 11. For people living in rural communities with little to no cell service, their landline is their lifeline.
It could be an actual life and death situation, and you would have no way to contact anybody.
Carol Alley knows this fear firsthand.
The sitter found her the day that she fell, which happened to be her birthday.
June 5th, 2018. Her mother's 92nd birthday.
When I got down there, the ambulance was sitting in Mother's driveway.
Fern Grimm, a widowed Gate City, Virginia woman known for her faith and spunk, was found sitting in the hallway, blood spilling from her forehead.
She went to the phone in the living room, there was blood there. She went to the phone in her bedroom, there was blood there.
In need of help, but family says her landline was out of service.
The bathroom looked like a war zone.
They say it had been out for 6 days, and family members say CenturyLink, the voice service provider in the area, had already missed 2 appointments to fix the phone.
Just about everybody in the family called trying to get them to come and fix Mother's phone, and no results.
Family says Grimm later died from complications of the fall. Wanda Skeen and her family, just down the road, are having similar problems with CenturyLink service. She says the phone goes out every time it rains. There's no dial tone for hours, sometimes days, or even weeks. Other times, it's static, humming, or crosstalk that's the problem. Neighbors in Upper Possum Creek say they've been complaining for years about slow and incomplete maintenance by CenturyLink technicians.
I have been through enough to know that something can happen, and I want to take care of it before it happens.
But if you live in a state like Virginia, experts say there's very little you can do about it.
If you live in a state where legislators or regulators have prematurely deregulated the industry, you are out of luck.
That's Susan Baldwin, a telecommunications policy expert who has testified in regulatory proceedings across the country, arguing that CenturyLink and other major voice service providers, quote, may have a corporate strategy of abandoning its rural customers.
Consumers who live in rural communities are really vulnerable, and the regulators and legislators just have a thorny problem because it's not profitable often for phone companies to invest and maintain in those networks.
A spokesperson for the Virginia State Corporation Commission says today the agency still records and relays complaints about CenturyLink from Virginians. The difference? There are no rules, no regulations. He says it's been about a decade since the Virginia Commission has had the legal authority to penalize phone companies for failing to provide quality service. In just this year, he estimates the agency has received about 600 complaints about CenturyLink alone. The vast majority, he says, related to reliability and connectivity of landlines.
I could go next, and if I couldn't get a hold of somebody, they would find me.
In an Upper Possum Creek home, about a half hour from emergency service and several miles from cell service.
A lot of valuable time was wasted because there was no phone connections.
You won't find that on a map.
He's informally known as the guy in that Subaru commercial.
If you would have asked me before I ever did this that a person could do one single ad and be recognized anywhere in the country, when you go places, I would have told you you're crazy.
But there's more to this artist and woodworker than meets the eye.
I didn't do a very good job picking my parents. They had bad genes.
64-year-old George Wurtzel has been blind since his late teens, but that hasn't stopped him from pursuing a career that involves a few sharp tools.
And I says, the only thing I'm asking for is the same opportunity to cut my fingers off as you had.
Wurtzel is in the process of opening a gallery in downtown Greenville, where he'll make and showcase his body of work.
It's functional art furniture. How's that?
And provide a space for other local artists to do the same.
Hopefully you don't see anything like what you saw down the road.
He also plans to teach his craft to community members, regardless of their present ability or disability. He's taught a number of blind people in the past, even a man with no hands.
He ended up, learning how to run a chop saw with his feet.
But Wurtzel says it's not just about learning how to use a saw. It's about teaching self-esteem.
If you feel that you are helpless and can't do things, you project that, and people perceive you as helpless and can't do things. I kind of feel that I teach a little bit more than just the woodworking to people sometimes. I teach people how to think about where they are.